Most men stay stuck between about 20 to 30% body fat, not because they aren't trying hard enough, but because they try to do just way too many things at once. They bounce between keto, fasting, cutting carbs, adding cardio, removing sugar, and throwing in high-intensity workouts whenever the guilt kicks in. None of that is a plan. That's just knee-jerk reactions. If you sit around 25% body fat, what you don't need is another intervention. You need one clear system that runs consistently, without panic, for the next 90 days. And that's what this video is about. Today I'm going to walk you through the exact framework I use with men who started around 25% body fat and want to move down to the 15% body fat range without living in the gym, extreme dieting, or restarting every single Monday. So let me set this up properly for you before we go any further, right? If you're starting around 25% body fat, dropping towards 15% body fat in 90 days is realistic, if you execute consistently. However, if you're starting at a higher body fat, this will take longer. The timeline can vary, but the process does not. Where most men go wrong is chasing speed instead of sustainability. They try to force fat loss as fast as possible. And all they really do is create rebound weight gain, muscle loss, and frustration. This system is designed to work with your physiology and not against it. So here's step one. The most common mistake I see is crash dieting. Men just slash their calories, cut out entire food groups, and rely on willpower to brute force it through a couple of miserable weeks. And the thing is, that doesn't work. You rebound immediately after. A show of hands, who's done this before? I have. You see, a sustainable rate of fat loss is actually about 1 to 2 pounds a week, so about half a kilo a week. And that usually means a daily caloric deficit of about 500 to 750 calories. Nothing extreme, nothing chaotic. Over 90 days, that adds up to 12 to 20 pounds of fat loss. That's about 5 to 8 kilos. And for most men starting at around 25% body fat, that's enough to make a visible, meaningful change in how your body looks and functions. The key here is objectivity. You pick your deficit, track honestly for 2 weeks, and look at the trend. If your body weight and waist measurements are moving in the right direction, you keep going. If things stall for about 2 consecutive weeks, you adjust one variable instead of tearing the entire plan apart. This is where discipline shows up. Not suffering, but in restraint. Now, the second thing that we have to look at is protein consumption. Most people, men and women, dramatically undereat protein, especially when dieting. And the result is predictable. You lose muscle alongside fat, feel consistently hungry, and when the scale finally drops, you wonder where all the muscle's gone. You just look skinny. Now, if you want to actually look leaner instead of softer, protein is a non-negotiable. Your meals need to be built with that being the primary ingredient. A simple rule that works for most people is 50 grams of protein per meal across 3 meals per day. And that puts you at around the 150 grams daily mark, which is enough to preserve muscle mass for the majority of people in a caloric deficit. Protein keeps you full, it protects lean tissue, and it stabilizes blood sugar. If a meal cannot realistically hit that protein target, it is not a proper meal. I would consider that more of a snack, and snacks are one of the fastest ways you can drift out of a calorie deficit without realizing it. A little here, a little there, and boom, you're 500 calories over and you don't know what happened. Look, if protein has always been an issue for you, I've got the solution right here. I've linked the Protein Mastery Toolkit right down in the description. It's designed to remove the guesswork so you can stay consistent without overthinking every meal. It comes with a custom guide on how to track your own protein and plug and play food templates for breakfast, lunch, and dinner so you can take the guesswork out and just follow this for your fat loss. So the third point to consider is to lift weights with intent. Your workouts are not there to burn calories, which is such a common misconception. Strength training exists to send a signal to your body that muscle tissue is still required. Without that signal, your body has no incentive to hold on to your muscles while your calories are restricted. So your body actually ends up breaking muscle down in lieu of fat when it comes to fat loss, which is why a lot of people struggle during this phase. You've just gotten rid of one of your most metabolically active organs, the muscle, which has been helping you burn calories throughout this entire time. Just think about that. You're dropping weight but burning muscle, which means your metabolism goes down. Now, what happens here is that you've got to now eat less food in order to keep up with your failing metabolism. That is a place nobody wants to be in. So how do you realistically fix this? 2 to 3 full body sessions per week, focusing on compound movements, progressive overload, and good technique. Sessions do not need to be long. We're talking 45 minutes tops. They don't have to be punishing. Just be consistent. Get a tracking app, track your workouts, just make sure that you're not falling off on the strength curve over time. Now, the fourth thing that I want to bring up is something that's so criminally underrated, and that's walking. Walking consistently beats aggressive cardio for fat loss because it increases energy expenditure without increasing hunger or stress or fatigue. Running, HIIT training, spin classes, they burn calories, sure, but they drive your appetite higher and just make the entire process even worse. However, walking does the opposite. It lowers stress, it improves your insulin sensitivity, regulates your appetite, and it's super easy to repeat every single day. In fact, you could probably walk without having to get into your gym clothes, so it's a great thing to do in between work hours, first thing in the morning, or straight after work. It's something you can do intermittently without setting aside 45 minutes to get onto a bike and just go all out. So with that, a good baseline target here is about 8 to 10,000 steps per day, and this works exceptionally well for most people. Those steps don't need to come from just a dedicated walk. They can be spread across the day, like I've mentioned before, and an easy way to keep track on all of that is to use either a smartwatch, or if your phone's in your pocket at all times, that's a great way to go about it. General rule of thumb is 10 minutes of consistent walking is about 1,000 steps at a moderate pace. So right now we've got weightlifting and walking working together in a sense that lifting weights sends the signal to preserve muscle, and walking is what quietly expands the calorie deficit to make the entire system easier to maintain. Now, step 5 is sleep and stress. You can't out-train a bad diet, and you can't out-diet poor sleep. Getting under 7 hours of sleep raises hunger hormones, lowers satiety, and increases fat storage, particularly around the waist. 7 to 8 good hours of sleep is not optional for a fat loss goal. If you've been sleeping 6 hours and telling yourself you're surviving, that is not good. You're functioning below your optimal potential, and your physiology will reflect that. So this is where we have to really start fixing our bedtime consistency. There's nothing gung-ho or manly or alpha about staying up late and grinding the midnight oil consistently. You're shooting yourself in the foot and burning the candle on two ends, leading to a shorter lifespan. So a simple thing you can do here to make sure your sleep is adequate is the 10-3-2-1-0 method. 10 hours before bed, cut out all caffeine. 3 hours before bed is your last big meal. 2 hours before bed is your last large drink of water, only small glasses after the fact. 1 hour before bed, no screens. Trust me, it works wonders. Your mind will stop racing and you can actually fall asleep easily. And 0 hits of the snooze button. That's what the 0 is for you. Which brings us to our 6th point. Let's try tracking without being emotionally invested in it. Fat loss works best when it's measured calmly and consistently. Track weekly averages of body weight, waist circumferences, and progress photos every couple of weeks. So weigh yourself in daily and just look for the trends. This will allow you to get a far clearer, large-scale picture of your progress. If this trend is moving in the right direction, just stay the course, change nothing. If progress stalls for about 2 weeks, adjust one of the variables, either increasing your steps or dropping your calories by about 100 to 150, drawing mainly from carb sources. You never want to get protein too low. All right, the last point is arguably one of the most important points I can share, and that is the identity shift. Now, this only works if you stop treating fat loss like a temporary project. Men who stay lean aren't relying on motivation. They've built an entire identity around this idea. They've cultivated certain behaviors and habits to live a healthier life. They walk regularly, they eat enough protein, they train consistently, sleep well, and they say no to things more often than they say yes. This reinforces your identity. This makes becoming healthy, not just lean, healthy, a lot better for the long run. If you haven't already, I'd highly recommend doing what I like to call the 5 whys exercise. Not the I want abs exercise, but why all of this actually matters to you. So just write down on a piece of paper, why is it that you want to lose weight, simply put, and then dig a little deeper. Ask why again. Is that really the reason, that it's just so that I can see my abs? Maybe it's because of how you used to feel as a kid. Maybe it's some past trauma that you're trying to get over. Maybe it's to feel confident in yourself. Maybe it's to look good naked and finally have some self-respect. This can be a very trying time. These are moments where you're going to ask yourself some very exposing, important questions. And I recommend taking a good look at it and sticking to the one that shines back at you the brightest. That would be your why. Save it in your phone, put it in the fridge or your bathroom mirror so that it turns into a mantra. So that in the worst of days. That will be your key to pushing forward. Now, compounding on that, the second thing I'd really like to touch on here is the identity shift of who you are, not who you are going to be. It's not I will get healthy or I will lose weight. It is I am a healthy person and this is what a healthy person does. A healthy person wouldn't sit down and scroll on their phone for 2 hours. They'd probably get up and get some walks in. They probably pre-cook their meals the night before so that the meals are prepped. They probably pack their gym bag so that they can go there straight after work or before work. So I want you to start thinking of yourself as that healthy person already. You are already there, you're manifesting it, and you're actioning it. Now look, if you're watching this and thinking, this makes sense, but 90 days feels like a lot to take on by yourself, and that's completely fair. I get you. A big part of why a lot of people struggle to execute isn't a lack of knowledge. It's trying to hold everything together alone while life, work, and stress are still moving in the background. And now that is a lot of noise to juggle. If you want support implementing all of this properly, the second link below will take you to an application to work with me one-on-one. We'll look at where you're starting, what your constraints are, and whether it makes sense to work together over a long time frame so it doesn't feel rushed or extreme. Look, there's no pressure or commitment from the call. It's simply a conversation to see if we're a good fit and whether I can help you, like I've helped many of my clients here before, so I'd love to see you on the call. And if not, that's totally fine too. You already have the framework. Your next step is execution.